Hello, guys, and welcome to Odds-On Europa League Playoffs. We have the second leg to analyze with Dani Fisichella, with Alvaro Romeo. Hello, guys.
Hello.
We had some greens in the first leg, some surprises. No one saw Nantes getting a draw in the Juventus stadium. So, guys, let's analyze these new games, match day that we have on Thursday. Remember also to leave your comments, your tips. We want to know your opinion. And of course, don't forget to press the like and subscribe. And both were correct. Actually, I was checking your tips with the first game that we are going to analyze, Monaco Leverkusen, because you expected goals, you expected both teams to score, and it was a thriller. Monaco won 3-2, so they have the advantage, Alvaro, to advance to the next round, and they keep the good form also in Ligue 1. They beat Brest. They are really in good form since they were kicked out of the Coupe de France against Rode. The opposite we can say about Leverkusen, so I think you have to be very optimistic, Alvaro, to think that Leverkusen can overcome this result.
You have to be, and even the odds for Monaco to win are pretty nice. I mean, 225. Do they need to win? The answer is no. But I believe that this game is gonna be goal feast again. That's very likely. Of course, Monaco won't be pushing the accelerator in the same way as Bayer Leverkusen, but Monaco right now are scoring plenty of goals. Basically, they are dropping goals from their pockets, you know. They have 5 wins in a row right now, and they have scored 13 goals in the last 5 games, and you could see the quality of some of their players. For example, I think that the other day, Diatta scored a beautiful goal against Bayer Leverkusen, and they are one of these sides that they could, if PSG keeps on making mistakes, they could actually get close to PSG in the Ligue 1. When it comes to Bayer Leverkusen, look, same thing as last week. I mean, in the Bundesliga, they lost in the weekend. They have suffered 2 defeats at home for 3-2 in the last 2 games, and they have scored 35 goals, but they have conceded 35 as well. They are rather entertaining, but not very reliable, not at all. And the goals market for me is very interesting. Of course, Kevin Volland is not playing. Gelson Martins either for Monaco. That's going to be hindering them a little bit. And for Bayer Leverkusen, Florian Wirtz and Moussa Diaby will be playing up front. Florian Wirtz, by the way, scored the best goal in the first leg of the playoff, a really nice solo run, and his first goal since his injury. So, you know, all these good things about the strikers scoring and all that point me in the goals direction. Both teams to score 164. Why? Because Monaco, in the 71% of their games this season, they have produced, or they have had, or they have suffered, the way you want to see it, both teams to score. And because Bayer Leverkusen scores a decent amount too, I could go also for over 2.5 goals, and this is going to be my favorite bet, in fact, that pays 173.
Dani, not very successful this first project for Xabi Alonso as a professional manager in a top flight league.
He inherited a team that was in disarray, that was going nowhere, and actually credit to Xabi Alonso, he kind of stabilized them a little bit more. He made them a little bit more solid in the first 6-7 games, but obviously they still got faults, you know, and we saw them against Monaco. Now, and they got the talent and they got the firepower to score against the French side. Well, definitely have, especially if you look at Wirtz. I mean, 6 goals and 6 assists in Europa League since 2020-2021. Schick scored at the weekend. He's back. They did a bit of turnover, Xabi Alonso. He lost, by the way, 3-2 against Mainz. He put the on the bench. He as well on the bench, so obviously he's having a lot of hopes in this game. But the recent story of Leverkusen says they are particularly weak in Europe. Only 1 win in the last 10 European games, and by contrast, Monaco are very strong, especially when they play at home in the Europa League. 13 games unbeaten in UEFA Europa League competitions. They won at the weekend. Monaco, as you mentioned, of course, they are up to 3rd, and you know, they are unbeaten in 11. They got the 2nd best attack of Ligue 1 with 53 goals scored, only 6 less than PSG. So they are a force here. They are very mercurial. When Golovin is on his day, they play all much better. And of course, we know about Embolo and about Ben Yedder, how dangerous they could be. I can see goals here. I like them both to score. I think in the second half, this game might open up. Let's go for over 1.5 goals in the second half. So 2 goals or more in the second 45 minutes. That pays 195.
Okay, goals again in the Monaco Leverkusen, perhaps also good odds to back Monaco. We saw a big surprise in the next one, Midtjylland Sporting, because the Danish team got a draw. We didn't see that coming in Portugal, so now Sporting have to go there and win to qualify. Sporting to win, odds are around 2, but Dani, it won't be easy, or it shouldn't be easy if we check the results also of Midtjylland playing at home, you know very well, because they scored 5 against Lazio. It was in September, or Feyenoord couldn't win there as well.
It wasn't a fluke, after all, that 1-1 against Sporting Lisbon. They had many chances. They took advantage of the mistakes of the Sporting Lisbon defense, especially the first goal was a gift by the goalkeeper. But in the end, Midtjylland could have scored 2 or 3, and they conceded in the 93rd minutes with a header from Coates. Now, normally in these sort of games, you need to put your chances away. Otherwise, you might rue them in the second leg. You know, you need to be ruthless. And Midtjylland weren't. So now Sporting Lisbon are still alive and still in the tie, of course, because the away goal rules doesn't count anymore. Now, both teams have played yesterday on Monday. They both won away. Midtjylland won 4-0 away at Viborg. Now they're up to 4th. Not as quite as last season when they finished second, but at least they can compete in the playoff for the title. Look, the recent history of Midtjylland says they normally get knocked out at this round. They get knocked out. They got knocked out 6 out of the last 7 European ties and never won the second leg in those 7 ties. Only kept 1 clean sheet, by the way, in 11 European games. So can they do it without conceding? I don't think so. Sporting, on the other hand, they won yesterday 3-2 at Chavez. Again, they seem to be a bit leaky recently. I think they got better quality, they got better players overall, and I think the team we saw in the Champions League, Sporting Lisbon, cannot just be gone only because they lost their right wing back to Spurs. So I think they're still there. They're still in contention. Sporting Lisbon to win. Sporting to win. 196.
All right, you trust Sporting Lisbon. There is some value, of course, if you wanna back Midtjylland, Alvaro. Them to win is 4.5.
It is, and this one is a little bit difficult to call. I think that the goals market is not too crazy. Over 2.5 goals, 195 would be my bet. I mean, for them both, for these two sides, over 2.5 goals tend to happen, with Midtjylland in the 53% of their games, with the Sporting in the 66% of their games. For example, for Sporting, it happened yesterday when they played in the Portuguese league. It's a good moment for Gonçalves in Sporting Club de Portugal. He scored a brace the other day, and he's one of the most dangerous strikers in the league. And Adan, the goalkeeper, is quite questioned in Portugal after his many mistakes, not only in the Champions League, but also the other day in the Europa League, in the first leg against Midtjylland. Just his distribution was poor, and Midtjylland capitalized on that. I think that is not the best season for Sporting Club Portugal. They've got 41 points and they are 8 points away from the 3rd place. And when it comes to Midtjylland, I think that we have seen that they are quite competitive lately, and maybe I underestimated them a little bit, but I really thought that the Sporting Club de Portugal was going to beat them at home. But Midtjylland, they haven't lost in the Europa League at home in the last 6 games. Basically, in 2021 and in 2022, they won all their games at home in the Europa League. At the same time, I still believe that Midtjylland is not better than Sporting. So that's why I'm going to go for the goals market, because I think that is a little bit, in a way, it gives you more certainty. So over 2.5 goals in this game, 195. I'm happy to stay with that.
Well, Adan, I remember him committing mistakes in the Velodrome against Marcel that were awful. So let's go to France, actually, to another surprise. Nantes Juventus, Nantes, you mentioned before one of the best goals in the Europa League. Also, the goal scored by Nantes was a beauty against Juventus. 1-1. Now Juventus have to go there and win, and it's very difficult to win at La Beaujoire. Dani Fisichella, only Olympique Marseille and PSG won their decision in Ligue 1, and Freiburg won in the Europa League. Do you see Juventus going there and winning?
Yes, because I think for Juventus, this is the Champions League final. This is the most important game of the season. That tells you already how average Juventus season has been. Look, I'm not saying it's been a bad season. Without the 15 points deduction, they will be second level to Inter, but they only won one game in 7 European games so far this season at home against Maccabi. So they've been underwhelming, and the future of the team, the future of Allegri, rests a lot on this game because they have the chances to go and win this competition and play in the Champions League next season. That's really what could help their season and what really could help the future. But they are massively under pressure, and I think in a way, by hook or by crook, they will deliver. It will not be pretty. It will be probably similar to the away wins they collected so far in Serie A. By the way, the one at Spezia, La Spezia, was the 6th away win to nil in Serie A against small, medium teams. So when they travel, they normally dispatch small, medium teams without conceding, with a few risks. Perin made a few saves, but in the end, they got there. Now, Nantes, where will they be in Serie A? A small, medium team, I think. So it is definitely at Juventus reach. 16 clean sheet for Juventus, by the way, this season. But again, don't get fooled by the numbers because Perin had to make a couple of good saves. But ultimately, the players that they bought to do the job and to deliver are kind of doing it. 9th of assist for Kostic, 3rd goal for Di Maria. Chiesa might be out for this one. Bonucci will be back, so a bit of experience there. And remember, in the first leg against Nantes, yes, they scored, had a few chances, then they dropped deep, as it normally happens. But in the end, they should have had a penalty. The handball was a clear penalty. It probably was the first time that I've ever seen that the referee went to the VAR, checked for penalty, and gave a foul for Nantes. So, a bit strange there. I think they're going to win it. I think, as I said, by hook or by crook, they're going to win this one. 194 for Juventus to come away with a win from France.
They need to score. Vlahovic did score, assisted by Chiesa. Alvaro, do you also trust Juve?
Vlahovic to score 2.5, Edu. And I do trust Juve because I think that they are a better side, and in the first leg they deserve better. It just didn't happen for them. And I understand how dangerous it is to put all your eggs in one basket and having to play for your survival in the Europa League and play that card only in one game away in France. I understand that there is a level of danger in that, but at the same time, I do believe that Juve is better. Of course, without the point deduction, as Daniele said, Juventus will be alongside Inter in the table. And the truth is that Juventus is a better side, and I'm going to back them. I think that Juventus to win something in the region of 190. I mean, I was checking the odds before. Daniele said 180, 195. Well, that's fantastic. I saw that it was 188 yesterday. I could go for that, of course. And Dusan Vlahovic scoring, I mean, considering that he's one of the best strikers in the competition, 2.5, why not to think that this can happen as well. And when it comes to Nantes, yes, Edu, you are right. I mean, at home they've been a good force, but then they have lost at home against the likes of PSG, Freiburg. Basically, they have been losing all the games against the important sides. This season, they haven't beaten in the league the following: PSG, Marseille, Lens twice, Monaco, Lille. And this weekend, they lost to Lens 3-1. So when they face big opposition, then they tend to have a problem, and you can see the real level. And only one aspect that I would like to consider very quickly. Daniele and I, we have been mentioning, for example, that for Juventus or last year for Barcelona, it was very important to win the Europa League just to make sure that they were going to play Champions League football the next season, right? For Juve, it's crucial. But it doesn't happen so often that a team that needs to win the Europa League to play the Champions League wins it. And the last time that it happened was in 2017 with Jose Mourinho's Manchester United. So we think that it's possible that these things happen, that they happen very rarely. They happen very rarely. Let's see if Juve can make it. Of course, that will be their only option of playing Champions League.
Usually it's an extra price. It happened to Eintracht Frankfurt, to Villarreal recently. Let's see if Juventus can overcome the draw at home. As Dani mentioned before, of course, there is no away rule. So if there is a draw, they will go to extra time. I guess Sevilla won't need an extra time because they beat 3-0 PSV. We saw the best version of this Sevilla in the Europa League. Is their competition. You trusted them. Alvaro, they are very good when they are playing at home. But if you want to, by the way, what a goal scored by Ocampos, I have to say as well. Yeah. But when you want to place bets in this game, also we have to check the away form for Sevilla. Usually is very bad. Perhaps it's good back in PSV with a bit of caveat. PSV to win 2.25.
Yes, this one is a tricky one because I think that, of course, it's a massive advantage for Sevilla having won 3-0 the first leg, and they will take that result to Eindhoven. But at the same time, it's difficult to draw or to master a game plan for a game like this, because if you defend very deep, you will end up conceding, and if you attack, you are taking a risk. So Sampaoli will have to calibrate very well how much he can let his Sevilla attack and how much he wants to defend here. But Sevilla is in a good moment. Lucas Ocampos is scoring, and his goal was lovely the other day. It made it nicer, of course, that the ball hit the post before hitting the net. But yeah, it was a top finish of Lucas Ocampos against PSV Eindhoven. And Sampaoli is trying to channel Lucas Ocampos' energy again, because after a very bad spell at Ajax, he's very anxious to play football and to run for every ball. And, you know, he has to take it easy a little bit because he hasn't had a lot of competitive football in his legs lately. And Sampaoli doesn't want Ocampos to pick an injury. And Nesiri is scoring too. And I think that Bono has been phenomenal in goal this season. I think Sevilla is going to be favored to qualify, that's for sure. I'm not too sure about this game. PSV, however, you know, as much as they have been entertaining this season, and they've got Xavi Simons and all that, and Cody Gakpo was there in the group stage, no longer in the side. In the Dutch league, they are not particularly well. This weekend they drew with Utrecht, for example, and one of those players who was supposed to make the difference for them, Torgan Hazard, is out for this game and is out for a few weeks. So maybe this is not the best moment for them, really. I'm going to go for the following, and I know that sometimes this sounds as speculative, but I am pretty sure that PSV Eindhoven will end up attacking way more than Sevilla, and that points me in the direction of the corners market. I think that an Asian handicap corners minus 1.5 for PSV Eindhoven doubles up your bet, and that's pretty decent. I'm going to keep it even for the ACCA, and if you want to go for the full-time market, I can understand that PSV could be a slightly favorite for this game because they have to win it, but a double chance for Sevilla 1.8 is not too bad either. But I am happy to stay in the Asian handicap minus 1.5 corners for PSV.
They had their chances actually in the first half against Sevilla, Dani.
Yeah, they did. And normally at home, PSV is a scoring side. I know without Gakpo, without Madueke, they got the firepower a little bit diminished, but this season they only lost to Rangers and AZ Alkmaar at home. They drew at Utrecht 2-2 at the weekend. They're -6 from Feyenoord. The last two Europa League games, they won them 2-0, 5-0 against Zurich, 2-0 against Arsenal. So Sevilla have to be wary. They will qualify, but I think it will be with conceding goals. Sevilla are winless in 9 away games in Europe, by the way. So they are very good at Sanchez Pizjuan, but when it comes to traveling, they got their issues. They drew, as Alvaro mentioned, the weekend away. And since the restart, they've only beaten Linares and Alaves in the Copa del Rey playing away. In the away table in La Liga, they are 13th. So I don't think they're going to come out of the Netherlands without conceding a goal. Over 2.5 goals here for an attacking For two attacking sides for a spectacular game, 192 over 2.5 goals.
Okay, with the first leg result, Sevilla is almost in the next round. It's very interesting. The next one, Roma Salzburg, because Salzburg was able to take the lead at the end of the game, and because we've seen Roma overcoming the result in these magical European nights at the Olimpico. Dani, they won, but they suffer in the Serie A against Verona, but it's going to be for sure a special night in the Olimpico, another one.
Oh, it's gonna be packed, and it's a kind of nights where they say, Mourinho says the fans, the public, the crowd score a goal, but Roma will have to work hard because they will be without Tammy Abraham for at least 5 or 6 days because he got a cut in his on his eyebrow. Dybala is gonna be back for this one. Dybala came out injured in Austria. Pellegrini is gonna be back, but Roma needs to make sure they cannot just win 1-0, otherwise it will go to extra time. Against Verona, it was another professional display. Pretty boring game. One shot on goal in the first half. Solbakken, almost the forgotten man they got from Bodo Glimt, scored. So that was the 4th 1-0 in a row at home. 5th clean sheet of the new year. A bit of polemic between Mourinho and the fans. Mourinho thinks that this team is overachieving and they should receive more accolades. Obviously, the pressure is there. They cannot play Solbakken, by the way, in Europa League because they made a mistake with the financial fair play and things they declared. In the previous game, the man of the match was anyway the Salzburg goalkeeper. Roma couldn't score, could not take the chances. They're gonna be, they have the specialist of knockout games, which is Jose Mourinho. Roma have won 8 of the last 9 knockout games in Europe. Salzburg, let's not forget, have not won in 5 trips to Italy, and previously this season they've been thrashed 4-0 to Milan. It's going to be nervy. It's not going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to be a qualification for Roma, which pays, for me at least, which pays a lot. 205 for the home side to qualify. Anyway, to qualify, extra time, penalties, 90 minutes, 205 Roma to qualify.
Okay, Roma to win is 1.73. You also trust Alvaro Roma with this atmosphere at the Olimpico?
I'm going to stay with Roma, yeah, of course. Tammy Abraham, is he discarded completely, Dani?
Totally. 100%.
Totally?
100%.
Okay.
Not going to play because he got a bad cut. He's not going to play.
Yes. All right. I had him in my papers as a doubtful for this game, but anyway, if you tell me that. And Paulo Dybala, let's see how fit he is for the game, of course. But anyway, I think that Roma will have the upper hand here. It's not only because they've got better players, because they are playing at home, also because Jose Mourinho won this competition twice with Porto and Manchester United, and he knows how to prepare these games individually very well. The atmosphere is going to be great, and apart from those intangible aspects, I also think that Salzburg away from home are a way lesser side than they are at home. In fact, Salzburg has lost the last 2 playoffs here in the Europa League, and they have lost the last 4 games away in the Europa League as well. And in the Champions League, if we go to another competition, they haven't won in the last 7 away games. So at home, they are offering some type of football and they are way more reliable. Away from home, they are not. And a 1-0 coming into Roma, I don't think that this is enough. And I know that since the restart of Austrian football, Salzburg has been doing well, but they are traveling to a difficult ground, and I think that Roma is going to win this one. Roma to win, it's good money already. It's 168 in my papers, could be 173 as you say, they do. But Roma to qualify, I prefer it. If Roma wins, there is a chance that they will qualify. In my opinion, big chance. So Roma to qualify, doubling up your bet. I'm going for that one too.
That Roma's anthem with Antonello Venditti at the Olimpico give me goosebumps. For sure, it's going to be a special atmosphere in the Olimpico to watch this Roma Salzburg, and I'm pretty sure as well that if we go to Manchester at Old Trafford, it's going to be also a great atmosphere. What a game we have. Man United, Barcelona, for sure we weren't disappointed in the first leg. It was a very entertaining game, and Alvaro, as we analyzed in our previous game, it's not a matter about Barcelona defending well. Sometimes it's a matter of the rival not taking the chances. If you have in front of you Rashford, is gonna hurt you, and Man United could have won. To be honest, everything could have happened At the Camp Nou, you expected goals in Barcelona. How do you see the second leg? Do you think Man United will qualify? Do you see goals? Do you think Barcelona can win finally in a big stadium in Europe?
Well, I think that if there is a favorite for this game, in my opinion, is Manchester United, slightly. Rather than slightly, okay, I will say that a 60% chance of qualifying for Manchester United could be fair. Manchester United winning the game, by the way, pays 235. And Manchester United qualifying, I checked that yesterday. Let's see. I mean, it hasn't changed much, 170. However, maybe I prefer to stick only to the goals market, really, because, you know, I think that Barcelona also has the power up front, and we saw the other day that even though they were dominated by Manchester United, they managed to score 2 goals because they've got quality up front, and even in corner kicks and all that, they've got the physicality as well to score. It has to be said that Barcelona hasn't lost to Manchester United since 2008, but I am convinced that Barcelona is going to suffer or go through some torrid times at Old Trafford, because Manchester United will pressurize, especially in certain phases of the game, and they will have many chances, and Old Trafford will erupt, and I think that Barcelona is going to have to deal with those moments very carefully. It's very important for Barcelona to have their best possible defense available. Good for Araujo to rest in the weekend. Araujo is going to be pivotal, fundamental for Barcelona. And Barcelona has a problem in midfield. Big problem, in my opinion, because Pedri and Gavi are out. Pedri is injured. Gavi will serve a suspension because he got yellows in the first leg. And Barcelona has only 3 midfielders for this game: Busquets, De Jong, and Kessie. And in my opinion, these 3 play different sports, and I'm not insulting any of them, but they've got very different ideas about how playing in midfield is. And Pedri and Gavi, especially Pedri, is yelling all the midfielders together. But without these 2, Barcelona's midfield is a little bit Picassian, with different paintings here and there that they don't make a lot of sense, and they don't make a good composition sometimes. And Xavi will be obliged to play with 3 strikers. Ferran Torres played very well against Cádiz the other day. He said, "Here I am, ready for Old Trafford." But still, Xavi will prefer to play with 4 midfielders, and he won't be able to play with 4 midfielders. Maybe Sergio Roberto will be the 4th midfielder. Who knows? Who knows? Because the other day against Cádiz was good, but, you know, I think that Pedri and Gavi being absent is a pain for Barcelona. Manchester United, they are in a very good moment. Marcus Rashford has had already his best ever scoring season, 24 goals. He scored goals against Leicester City the other day again. And Fred is replacing Eriksen fantastically. I think that Manchester United should be a slightly favorite, but I'm going to go for the goals market. Over 2.5 goals, 188. Both teams to score, 168. You choose it. You choose it. Both are good for me.
They are favorite, actually. Man United to qualify, the best odds available, 1.78. Barcelona to qualify, 2.3. 2.3, Dani. We cannot hear you, Dani.
Sorry, go for the same. Over 2.5 goals. Last time I checked was 195. Obviously, the odds have dropped. Manchester have been good all weekend. Won 3-0 despite a bad half. De Gea had to make a lot of saves. They got the League Cup coming up on Sunday, so it's a very big moment for Manchester United. It will be really important for Den Haag to win a trophy. Let's not discard the importance of a League Cup for a new manager. Unbeaten in 8 games. Manchester United, but what's more important, it looks like they got a plan. They also got a plan B. They know how to change in due course, and when the players switch positions, they look very comfortable. They scored 2 or more goals in 12 of the last 13 games. Manchester United obviously helped by the great form of Rashford, but also the return of Sancho. When I'm talking about tactics, if you look at the first half against Leicester, they were too narrow. There was no width, no space. The ball was always played into feet. And in the second half, they stretched the pitch. There was more width, and the ball was playing into spaces for players like Rashford or Sancho Fernandez to run into, and they were much more dangerous. I think they're going to do the same and stretch Barcelona defense. I don't think Barcelona, despite having conceded only 7 goals in La Liga, is a great defense. We saw them in Europe against Inter.
Danny, and the other day, Cádiz had so many chances against Barcelona. It's just La Liga's level. The best forwards are gone.
It's the same thing with the Juventus keeping all those clean sheets. If the opposition take the chances, those defenses sometimes they crack. Over 2.5 goals, 195.
Well, Barcelona, they beat Man United recently twice in Champions League finals. I think the game you mentioned, Alvaro, was decided by Paul Scholes, that he scored a beauty from mid-distance.
2008.
Exactly, if I don't remember badly. Well, this is a huge game, of course. Man United, Barcelona. Hopefully we see plenty of goals as you guys expect. And we have 2 more games. Rennes, Shakhtar, we were surprised again by Shakhtar. I think we should take and look carefully the odds and perhaps back Shakhtar somehow. Shakhtar to win, Dani, 5.25 is not easy to win in Rawson Park. We know it. Rennes won again at home at the weekend against Clermont, but this Shakhtar is getting positive result after positive result in Europe.
It is, and we don't have to underestimate it. The fact they have not played competitive football since the break, the winter break, doesn't count. I mean, after all, they had a lot of chances against Rennes, and they showed that there is life after Mudryk. In fact, this replacement, Kirsiv, scored. But again, lot of chances, a few chances missed, which also happened in the Champions League. If I think at the game at Celtic Park when they drew 1-1. And again, in these situations, who knows? Because you need, it's very tight. Rennes, they won against Clermont Foot. They are up to 50 in Ligue 1, which I think is a good result for them. They are unbeaten in the last 8 home games in Europe, and they had done a good scouting. I think the good recruitment in January, because they got Toko Ekambi from Lyon to replace, of course, Suleiman, who went to Southampton. Jeremy Doku, a couple of years ago, was one of the most promising young players in Europe. His thing is getting back to his best. He had 7 dribbles completed in the first leg against Shakhtar. So, very direct. No clean sheet at home, though, for Rennes in Europe so far. I don't think Shakhtar are going to be trashed here. If they lose, they're going to lose marginally. They're going to go Asian handicap plus 0.75 for Shakhtar, which pays 203. If they lose by only 1 goal margin, you lose half your stake.
Very good odds for Shakhtar, and we have to remind our viewers, Alvaro, that Rennes in Ligue 1, they are very good at home. In Europe, not that much. Actually, they couldn't beat Fenerbahce or Larnaca in this Europa League.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't be too surprised if Shakhtar Donetsk qualifies, and really, which pays 180, and I'm going to stay with that, in fact, because I think that there is something about this side, really. In the Champions League, they were competitive despite their situation, and they just welcomed Rennes a week ago, and they hadn't played competitive football since the 23rd of November, 2 months, 2.5 months, basically, and they managed to win a football game against a well-engined and well-oiled football side. So it's very impressive what they are doing. The players are staying very professional despite the situation. And, with Shakhtar, there is not much we can hang on to justify our odds. We just simply can go to the results in the Champions League and the Europa League and have an intuition, but there are not so many statistics about them and all that, because their league campaign has been on and off. When it comes to Rennes, for example, it's different. You've got all the data there. They have played this season more than 25 games, and this weekend they won with the praise from Kalinuendo. But the truth is that they put a bad run to an end. I mean, Rennes was coming into their game this weekend against Clermont in a very bad run, and they are suffering a lot from the injury of Terrier, their best striker, of course, but they are still making a decent job. Many games in which Rennes is involved end up in both teams to score. The 74-75% of them are over 2.5 goals to start with. So the goals market is interesting too. Both teams to score, then 178, because Shakhtar is scoring a decent amount too. But maybe I am happier with Shakhtar to qualify anyway, 1.8.
Well, and the last game we have to analyze is Union Berlin Ajax. This is a tough one to call. I think we saw a goalless draw in the Johan Cruyff Arena, and we have Union Berlin when they play in Europe. Alvaro, we see low scoring games, no matter if they play at home or away, probably, or perhaps this is also a cagey one, thinking about the result they got in Amsterdam.
Yeah, I think so. I think that this could be a cagey one, in fact. I I think that Union Berlin, they are very good at home to start with. And, when I started checking the odds, Edu, one thing that caught my eye straight away was Ajax scoring over 1.5 goals because it triples up your bet. And I was saying, come on, they are scoring so many goals with Johnny Heitinga lately, especially in the league, that why not to think that Ajax can score 2 goals away, right? But then I discarded it, and I tell you why. Because in 2022, Union Berlin only suffered 2 defeats at home. And only one side has won there this season, Union Saint-Gilloise, and only one side has scored 2 goals there this season, which was Augsburg. So at home they are very solid, Union Berlin, and this is gonna be a game in which I think that maybe Union Berlin has a chance of qualifying. Because Ajax, on the other hand, they are a little bit hit and miss. Right now in their league, they are doing very well. But then in Europe, they haven't been too consistent this season. One thing that is a blessing and a curse for Ajax is that they've got many scorers, but not a great scorer. Kudus, Brobbey, Bergwijn, Klaassen, Tadic, they are all scoring a decent amount of goals, but they don't have a man like Sebastian Haller a couple of seasons ago who could actually score 20 a season. This is a tricky one. Over 2.25 goals almost doubles up your bet. I don't think it's a bad idea because I think that Union Berlin can score these goals, not so much because Ajax can score them. And in the full-time market, Union Berlin to win it 230, it's very tempting as well because they are playing at home. But maybe I stay with the over 2.25 goals, or even I could stay with over 2 goals and stay there. That pays 160.
Well, I'm gonna go for something different from the previous leg. I think it's gonna be above to score here, 2-2. I know Union Berlin limited Ajax to very few chances. There were only 3 shots on target in the entire game. Never scored more than 1 goal, Union Berlin, in the last 11 European matches. But they need to go for it in a way. And the fact that they made changes at the weekend against Schalke, that means that they are targeting this game. But obviously, next up, they got Bayern Munich away, and they are level with Bayern and Borussia. So obviously, rotations are normal at this time of the season. 0-0 against Schalke, by the way, the weekend against the bottom side of the league. Very disappointing for Union Berlin, which, by the way, are the surprise package of the Bundesliga. When it comes to Ajax, unbeaten in 12 games, won 4-0 at Sparta Rotterdam. But as Alvaro predicted, Rulli had a good game against the Germans. I think it's going to be above the score. I think they're going to open up a bit more. It cannot just be always under with the Union Berlin. 206 above the score.
Tough one to call. Union Berlin favorite to qualify, 1.7. Ajax to qualify, 2.4. And this is it for all the games we have on Thursday in the Europa League. Let's finish the video with your best bets, safe bets. Dani Fisichella.
Manchester United, Barcelona, both team to score. That pays amazingly high, 185.
Indeed. Alvaro?
My safe bet is Monaco, Bayer Leverkusen, over 2.5 goals, 173.
Goals. We saw goals in both games in the first leg. And Yoraka, Alvaro?
You won't be surprised, Edu, if I don't use Union Berlin Ajax for my ACCA, because I saw my doubts before. So it will be this. Monaco, Bayer Leverkusen, over 2.5 goals. Juventus to qualify. And Manchester United, Barcelona, both teams to score, altogether for 0.06.
Makes sense. Dani?
4 games, Sporting Lisbon to qualify, Juventus to qualify, Roma to beat Salzburg, Union Berlin Ajax over 1.5 goals, total odds 570.
Let's have fun. On Thursday, we have so many good games in the Europa League. Thank you, Alvaro. Thanks, Dani. Guys, remember, just press the like and subscribe to back us, to support us. Bye-bye.